How's it going? I haven't made one of these videos in well over 2 years. And not only that, I ended up actually removing a lot of the videos I've done in the past, like about almost 100 videos. Now in the last video, I kind of mentioned this shift in perspective that I'd had. My shift in my perspective in my way of viewing things, viewing my life. And I was kind of expecting that after that I'd have a lot more to say, given the fact that I've been so talkative before, you couldn't shut me up with all the videos and blog posts. But the reality is that when I actually started to achieve what it was I was after, and that's what did happen, I surprisingly had very little to say about it, at least in this form. Now, my job is a mindfulness teacher, so I do get to rabbit on to people, a captive audience in work. So, that I did have that outlet. But even there, I did find it, I kind of really expected that if I found what I was looking for, that it would be very easy to kind of, guide other people to that, because I kind of felt that had been such a part of my journey. But it turns out that even the idea of guiding other people towards this just seemed, unnecessary for a long time, and just kind of almost silly. And I just continue to, I love my job. I love kind of talking about this stuff to other people. But the idea that I was in any way needed, that kind of seems a bit ridiculous to me now. But, more recently, I have, found that it can certainly be helpful to people to to focus on the kind of on the experience itself, this kind of way I perceive reality now. That it can be that can be very useful for people. And so, yes, of course, all of the practices can be beneficial, but in many ways the practices are not the most important thing at all. And when I look at my journey, I don't regret in any way the thousands of hours of meditation I did and all the other stuff I did. But so much happened outside of the practices. And, to me, it's now obvious that it's got far more to do with us and our willingness and our earnestness about kind of developing a better relationship with reality than it has about the practices. About in my 20s, about well over 25 years ago, I had this incredible shift that just kind of came out of nowhere. It happened on the upstairs of a bus in London, and for a few minutes I was kind of I'd found exactly what I wanted, and I was kind of blissed out for weeks after that. The funny thing is that's the way I experience reality now. And for many years I was chasing that experience, but now I kind of look back on it with sadness. Because the thing that made that experience so incredible to me was that my life was so impoverished. That my life was such a shit show. That, this kind of different reality just blew my mind in a way. And it seems something, almost reserved for the gods, when in fact it's nothing like that at all. It's what's there when we kind of let go of this shit show in our head. It's what's there. So what I kind of have been doing, and the reason I feel like I'm kind of getting a lot clearer about what it is about this kind of shift in perspective. So maybe, the time is ready to kind of, share it more openly, like in this kind of format, if anyone cares. So the kind of the way, I'm experiencing things now, I kind of like to describe it as having three attributes in a way. So the first attribute is the sense of wonder. Now, what I mean by the sense of wonder is this kind of realization that I don't know what's going on, and I actually never had. And that I'd kind of, I'd replace this kind of, this sense of not knowing what's going on with all of my ideas about how everything are. And those ideas about how everything are created this kind of very, very limited, very, very dull, and very, very unrewarding experience of life. And that these kind of ideas about things were so, so limited. And basically I'd replaced life with my ideas about life. I'd replaced this kind of incredible experience with my ideas about it. So what wonder is about is I actually started to look again. I actually started to see the world again as if I'd never seen it before. And the more I did this, the more it came alive and opened up for me. And until it became absolutely incredible. I've kind of realized, I kind of like that story of, from the Abrahamic religions, the Garden of Eden story. Because I think it really, really sums it up, in the sense that, we're living in Eden. And, we have this tree of knowledge that we take the apple from. And it's not that we're expelled from Eden, it's just that we replace it with our knowledge. But when we kind of, drop that, when we come back to looking at what's here with a sense of wonder, with a sense of not knowing what it is, we're back in Eden. The world just starts to blossom in an incredible way. And, it just becomes our new way of looking at things. And it's always nourishing. So this kind of tends to remind people a lot of how they experience things as a child, and it is quite similar, only I'd say more deep. That as the children we have got, we don't have very, very rigid ideas about things, so you can really see things in a very kind of wondrous way. That and it makes everything so much more alive, so much more wow, and it's wow all the time. So that's the wonder. So the next aspect of this is intimacy. Now, intimacy is the nature of this experience because, we are life. There's no part of us that is separate from life. We can have this kind of intellectual idea or this kind of sense that there's us here and there's life there. That's just nonsense. There's no part of us that doesn't belong to life. So that sense of separation is completely created by our attachment to thinking. The fact that we kind of treat thinking as more relevant than what it actually is. This kind of, prioritizing of our intellectual ideas about life rather than, experiencing life directly. So once we kind of start, using that curiosity, we start to feel once again intimate with life. And this can be so crucial, especially for, my own journey and a lot of people that, that I work with. In that, for many years we will have, not only would we have addiction problems, but also, these really, bad relationships with people. And a lot of that was to do with this idea that somehow people had to behave in a certain way for us to be okay with them, for us to feel connected to them. And that's not true. We already are connected to them. We cannot be other than connected to other people. We're all just life. That's all that's here. And, when you really get that need to people please or get people to like you, that just disappears completely. There's no need to. The intimacy you always yearn for is already there. It always has been there. And it was just all of the thinking that we were paying too much attention to that created the sense that it wasn't there. And, the funny thing is with, the curiosity and the intimacy, people spend a lot of money and do a lot of damage to their health trying to have these experiences. People will take, mind-altering drugs like LSD and all of that kind of stuff so they can kind of have that sense of wonder, when the wonder is already there. People will take, stuff like E so they can help, and alcohol in my case, so they can feel connected to other people, and they already are connected to other people. It's only our ideas and our kind of the fact that we are so wrapped up in those ideas that creates that lack of intimacy and that lack of kind of curiosity. So the final part of this experience is what I refer to as trust. So trust arises with this recognition, that I'm not choosing any of this, and I never have been. All that's happening is or the only thing, from the only thing that to kind of do is to, it's about that kind of relationship to what's happening. And when we kind of start to see, that there's no way, it's actually the sense that we're somehow getting now wrong that is the cause of most of our suffering. This idea that somehow now should be different than what it is. That's what causes most of our suffering. And when we just realize that doesn't even make any sense. That, we're not choosing the thinking, we're not choosing the feelings, we're not choosing absolutely anything. Yes, we absolutely can have the sense of that. But when you realize, that all that really matters is how we're relating to what's happening, that's trust. Because the lack of trust can only make sense when when things in some way could be different. And when you realize that things could never be different, that's what trust is right there. And the more that happens, the more secure we feel, that we don't have to, be so wrapped up in this idea that we're constantly getting life wrong. And in fact, it's everything we kind of did to get life right that is the problem. So the recognition that that's all kind of just junk, that changes, and we just start this absolute trust. One of my favorite kind of definitions of trust is actually by a guy called Anthony de Mello, who's a Christian mystic, and he described it as absolute cooperation with the inevitable. And that's it. This kind of recognition, it is what it is. I love it is what it is. Because that's the truth of it. So, I just thought I would do this update. I don't know if it's any value to you. I hope I haven't wasted 12 minutes of your time or whatever. But it was nice catching up anyway. So thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.